buildinggreenwichct.com.
No problem. We're live.
Oh, okay, great.
Well, not live. It's recorded.
Okay.
You can delete this if you want.
Good morning, Greenwich. This is Lindsay Potter, your co-host of the Building Greenwich podcast, here with my co-host, Scott Elwell. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
And today we have with us Bobby Walker, the man, the myth, the legend. If you know him, you know. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you very much.
So
How y'all
good
doing?
to have you.
Doing well. How are you doing, Bobby?
I'm good.
I mean, I'm thrilled to have you here.
Good to be
All
here.
right,
Thank y'all.
one of everyone's favorite people. I mentioned your name yesterday, and someone goes, well, he's a legend. I said, yeah, he is. He's a legend. So now we get to
Becky
find out.
Walker's husband.
Yeah, Becky.
Yeah.
You know, that's how I introduced myself at GA.
I got that. Yeah.
I literally introduced myself as Mr. Mrs. Walker. And everyone goes,
Oh,
I get that. I get that.
I know you. All right, so who's Becky Walker? Because for those people out there in our community that don't know you or your amazing wife, they don't know what. So Becky is...
So Becky is entering her 20th year as the head of middle school at Greenwich Academy.
Wow.
That's a lot.
20 years.
Yeah.
I know, it's awesome.
And I would say I was a head of middle school at the same time she was, and I would still say she's probably the best head of middle school that I know.
I would agree with you.
She's
Oh, absolutely.
She's absolutely good.
She's
She's had my kids.
Did a good job though.
You did a good job.
But I think that she just, there's something about Becky, and particularly with girls, that's just absolutely amazing.
She's a dream come true for most of the girls, and everyone loves her. And so tell us, you were just telling us offline about how you guys got to Greenwich. So you've been here since 2000.
So we moved to Connecticut in 2005.
Okay.
We lived in Stamford for 5 years, and then in 2010 we moved to Greenwich.
Okay.
But obviously we've been spending most of our time in Greenwich because of GA. So
right.
I used to come out, Becky, the kids were, at the Cowan Center, my two oldest. And so I would come out from Stanford, and we'd actually eat in Greenwich a lot. It's actually how we got to know the Browers.
Oh, nice.
They introduced us to Glory Days. So that was our little meeting
The
spot.
diner in Greenwich.
Colonial Diner.
Yeah.
I mean, it was colonial when we grew up there. Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
I mean,
nothing has changed but the name.
And when did the name change? I mean, it's been Glory Days for ages, but it's colonial when we grew up.
It's the diner in town. It's right in downtown Greenwich, and the Browers, Jamie Brower also works at Greenwich Academy, and they're amazing people as well. So you guys were in Baltimore before this, right?
So our history is this. So Becky and I actually met in college.
Aww.
So we have been dating since we were 19.
Aww.
Classic.
And
Legend.
Becky came down to Texas. So I'm a native of Dallas. Becky stayed an extra year at Williams, where we went to school. She worked in the admissions office as I returned to my alma mater and worked. And then just, the way fate has it, we both put our name out there sort of in the teaching world, trying to find jobs near each other. That was the goal. And what are the chances? I'm at an all-boys school. And then it was the sister school that actually wanted Becky to come teach English and coach, the two things she wanted to do. So she moved to Dallas. We were there for 4 years together. And then we moved to Baltimore in 2000. Had our two oldest kids, Maya in 02, Miles in 04. And then we got the jobs Becky got the job at GA in 2005. And I got a call to be head of middle school. At that time, it was King Low Haywood Thomas, or King now, in 2005. So we were both heads of middle school at the same time.
That's great.
Did they change the name officially to King?
It is officially King School.
So if I say KLHT, I mean, everyone knows.
You'll be talking to someone who, if you're saying KLHT, the only people who know that is someone who's probably in their late 30s or older who would know that.
Like old, like me. I mean,
So they changed it a while ago.
So when I was there, they sort of went through a whole rebranding process. It went from King and Low Haywood Thomas to KLHT, then now the King School.
Okay.
Or King School.
Yeah. How long were you there?
I was there for 9 years. I was a head of middle school from 05 to 2014.
I did not know that.
Yeah. I did that for, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a really good run.
And you were really good, but not as good as Becky. Something like that. Yeah.
Listen, imagine being able to roll over and get the best advice on your job from an expert.
Yes.
So
You're really buttering her up right now.
Hey,
are you in trouble?
Hey, no, she's gonna listen to this, man. I'm good. But it was cool because having someone who has your exact same job, but at a different school, and the ability to just be able to talk about your profession so openly with someone who knows exactly what you're going through. That was something really different and unique.
That is.
I mean, you had one major difference, though.
Well, mine was co-ed. She was all girls.
Yeah. I mean, boys.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask if King School was co-ed.
Co-ed, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it still is to this day.
Still
Okay.
co-ed, yeah.
Yeah, and Greenwich Academy is all girls. And so then you leave King and your kids are getting older. How did you land at the Boys and Girls Club of Greenwich, which is how the majority of people in our community know you because you were a staple there for so many years?
So, you know, there just came a point where I felt I needed to do something different at King when I was at King. And trying to make this really long story short, when I was a kid, if you can picture, Dallas is a pretty big metropolitan city.
Sure.
All of the private schools, or the elite private schools, if you want to call them, were all in the north side of town. So I actually joined a Boys and Girls Club program that took kids from the south side, east side, west side. We boarded Boys and Girls Club buses. They actually took us to school. And then after school, they pick us up, and then we go to the club and we can do our homework and be a club kid. So that sort of love affair with the club started way back in, I'm dating myself, 84.
Okay.
And then this opportunity came, and I didn't know much about it. I'd actually met the previous director, Bob D'Angelo, just as I was contemplating a move, and a couple of friends like, hey, Bob, you'd be really good at nonprofit work. And I didn't really know what that meant. And had a good meeting with Bob D'Angelo, and found out later that when he said that he was going to resign, he actually had given my name to the search committee.
That's great.
Who literally gave me a phone call.
I was on the board at the YMCA at that time, and your name kept popping up. And I mean, I'm very curious about how the Boys and Girls Club, how the relationship between Greenwich, Dallas, like across the country, how that works.
So you know, it's a big national organization,
Yeah.
right? So that's the beauty of the Boys and Girls Club is, while you have your local club, it's actually part of about 1,800 clubs across the country.
Wow.
So there's a big national organization headquartered out of Atlanta. But every location has the ability to create the programs that best fit your community. But then there are certain things, part of the charter is you have to have certain things in terms of a safe space, a good place after school, certain programs. You have to make sure you do certain checks on your employees, but also provide certain things for the employees. But you also have the expertise. I mean, so there are many times I call Atlanta. They put me in touch with another club somewhere else,
Nice.
just as you had questions. So it's a great
There's
network.
community.
It's a huge community.
That's awesome. I don't know that either.
Yeah. And for us, obviously, having a Stanford club, I mean, we're exit 3, take exit 7 for them, or exit 6, excuse me. So they're right down the street. So the first person that I met when I took that job, I actually met, his name was Mike Catella, who was the CEO of the Stanford club. But I knew him because King used to volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club. So the club has sort of always been there.
Yeah.
Like most of my adult friends from Dallas were on those Boys and Girls Club vehicles with me, part of that program.
Oh, you're kidding.
So
How
I
old
still-
is it? Do you know?
Which one?
Boys and Girls, the whole thing.
Oh, great history lesson. So the Boys,
Been a while since someone.
know this. The Boys and Girls Club of America started in Hartford, Connecticut,
I didn't.
You're kidding.
1860,
What?
1860.
when a group of
And it was started as the Boys and Girls Club?
started as a boys club.
Right.
Okay.
And it was a group
Makes
of
more
women
sense.
who saw some boys constantly getting themselves in trouble, and they literally opened up their homes to try to get these boys off the street,
Yeah.
and then to provide things for the boys to do in some structured way, particularly when they're not in school. And so that movement sort of kicked off, and the Greenwich Club opened in 1910.
Wow.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is a good history
Yeah,
lesson, Bobby.
So
Well, 1910. I mean, that's 14 years. Like,
So that's the beauty of the club, is that like it has always had this mantra, this mission to provide a safe space for kids, predominantly in the out of school hours. We used to say after school, but because holidays, clubs are open, summer clubs are open. So not necessarily after school, but more in the out of school hours.
did you work? I mean, were you constantly on the phone with the people at Stanford? I mean, like, did you work closely with Stanford? Was there any overlap in events and stuff, or
Nothing
is it
like
pretty
that. It was,
independent?
for us, it was more about the concept of partnerships.
Okay.
And so we would do things like just from, hey, you guys want to come and we'll have a kickball tournament or a basketball basketball tournament. But every once in a while, so each club has these leadership groups. There's a middle school leadership group called Torch Club. And then Keystone Club is the name of the leadership group for high schoolers.
Okay.
And so a lot of times those groups would get together and they may do a project together, but that's one of the things.
So Keystone's a name that's national?
It's a national
Okay,
name.
so it's a, we're branded or
If
whatever.
you call the Boys and Girls Club of Wallingford now, they would have a Keystone Club.
And that's teenagers?
That's teens. Those are older kids, high school.
Okay.
And then the middle school group is Torch Club. And so a lot of times they would get together, they would do different projects. But I think our relationship with a lot of clubs in town, and this is sort of the beauty of being in Greenwich, and it's going to sound like people tease us, Greenwich has too much money, but we had resources.
Yeah.
Right. So the club
Use them. I mean,
so the club has Camp Simmons. Camp Simmons is an outdoor camp. It has a swimming pool. So a lot of times we would actually invite clubs to come to Camp Simmons during the summer, or we have the indoor turf, and we used to have the
YMCA. You invited us, and when I was involved, we were very jealous of the events you hosted, and we felt very far behind.
Well, the Boys and Girls Club does host some incredible fundraisers that are the talk of the town.
Yeah, you got the parties, but you also have the what's the obstacle event?
The mud run.
Yes, the mud run.
Bob D'Angelo created that. So in 2014, I think that was the third. So I'm assuming it started in 2012. The greatest event. Like, I wish more people in Greenwich would actually participate because it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Being able to go out, and it's even more fun when you do it with a group of people. Do it as a team.
Well, we're going to do that this year.
It's so much fun.
And it's at Camp Simmons?
At Camp Simmons. But here's the beauty of it. You don't have to be an elite runner to do it.
Yeah.
My daughter, the first year I was at the club, my youngest was 6 years old. And she was just coming. We were like, hey, you're going to just watch? And then she saw a good friend of hers out there. And she's like, I want to go. And so her mother's like, let's bring her. So she's in like a little tutu and rain boots. And they went through the whole course. And so, about an hour later, she emerges. She's covered in mud. She's wet. And she has the biggest smile on her face. And that's sort of what the mud run's about. Yes, you can do it competitively if you're, a Spartan racer and you want to run because, there are obstacles, there are things to cross, there's a wall to climb, like real rocks that we use.
How far is it?
It's a 5K.
It's a 5K, which is obstacles. Okay.
And a lot of them, the majority of the obstacles are just nature.
Yeah.
Right. So tree falls, we're not going to take it down.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to have to go over that tree. There are a couple of places you can wade across, in the water. There's one place, we call it the swamp, where I'm not joking. I wanted to test it. I sort of fell off. It was to my mid-thigh.
Yeah.
And the number of shoes that we found.
I think I've seen photos, which is why I haven't done it.
Yeah.
And so, the swamp's not helping your marketing, but I've seen
that's great. And then there were two man-made mud pits.
Okay.
Where sort of, particularly at the end, at least while I was there, you'd finish with truly a big splash into a mud pit. The last obstacle, and there was one that we dug in between. And the other part is that there's a lot of community help.
All right.
So to do mud pits take water. And so the Greenwich Fire Department is always helping us out.
Who?
We've had construction companies, for instance, help us dig some of the pits. We've had, I think it was Sam Bridge has given us soil to put inside of some of these pits to help create the mud. So there have been a lot of community partners that have helped us out. But I think a lot of it's just really people who want to have a good time.
And support the Boys and Girls Club.
And in the end, you're supporting an incredible organization that, is providing these opportunities for almost 2,000 kids after school.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
In just the Greenwich location?
That's just us, yeah.
Wow. Well, and to think about the percentage of dual income families, even in the past 5 years through COVID, like how many moms especially went back to work and were otherwise able to be home with their kids in the afternoon. I'm sure that's shifted things with the Boys and Girls Club.
It's always interesting when people think of Greenwich, you tend to forget Greenwich is a lot more than Bellhaven or Backcountry, right?
Exactly.
That there are working class people here. There are even people who are working class who struggle in poverty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so the club provides this opportunity for any kid, but predominantly those that don't have all the resources they need to find a place to be successful. So, and so one of the things that we really try to do is if you think about the concept of like leveling the playing field, right? It's an old fashioned term, but I wanted kids when I was there to really because I'm a teacher, right?
Yeah.
I'm an educator. And so that was not my focus, but I definitely wanted to provide those opportunities. So, the club, even before I got there, did things like SAT tutoring, college essay writing help, after school homework. And we just kept building on that, right? And so I love the fact that there's an SAT tutoring, opportunity for kids, but it's also through one of the best SAT tutors in town.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's the same thing that other people are paying for that we were able to provide at no cost for kids. They just have to be a member and a gracious woman here in town. She heard about it, and I think probably going on now 6 or 7 years, she's funded this opportunity.
That's fantastic.
One in the fall, one in the spring for any club kid to go and get literally it's the same tutoring that my daughter's doing right now.
Well, and it wasn't until I got involved with the Y that I fully appreciate there are a ton of people that need help, and that that these programs are massively beneficial for in Greenwich.
Yeah,
I mean we're not talking far from here. We're talking right here.
And I think that's sort of where people have to understand, and I guess that's where I love sort of the mission of the club, right? Is that how do we provide these opportunities for kids to grow into the type of young folks that are going to make all of us proud.
Yeah.
Right.
And so how do you remove barriers? So not being able to do something because of money was the biggest thing we wanted to remove, right? You don't have childcare. You don't have to pay for a babysitter. And while I was there, pay the $75 a year. Yeah. We got your kid after school, right? The swim lessons, right? I mean, to learn how to swim, you need access to a pool. Many people, you get that access through some private, whether it's a country club or a Y or something like that. And a lot of families in town can't afford it. Those swim lessons are also we're part of the club membership. And so you're there, your child comes after school. So you can imagine the typical day for a kid would be come in, get your homework done. You have access to the gym so you can run around inside. We had a turf field. You can run around outside. There's an art room. There was a computer lab. So we had kids learning, different type of skills on the computer. But then there's these specialized programs. And this is sort of where it got really fun, where people could do the swim lessons. People could, we actually had a video game design class. We had a computer programming class. We had a, 3D art class. And a lot of these were taught sometimes by some of our employees, but a lot were taught by people who were experts in this. We had an artist do our art class. We had a guy whom we had met who was trying to start a video game design company teaching video game design.
That's fantastic.
Are they volunteering to do that?
Sometimes most of the people did volunteer, but others we'd pay a little something, but most people would volunteer.
Yeah.
We had our staff, but a lot of folks would come in and, because they saw that they were volunteering for something bigger than themselves.
Right. Yeah.
And that they were volunteering, really trying to give a bunch of kids opportunities. And what I love about the club, and if you talk to people, I mentioned it's been around since 1910. If you talk to approximately half of the men, so I'm 51. Yeah. You talk to most of the guys my age, they all went there. Yeah. No matter who they were. Right. And so I love the fact these guys from Cos Cob and the guys, particularly from Chickahominy, let me tell you.
Well, it's right there. Or wait, where was it when we grew up?
It's been there. So
same location?
It moved to that location 1933. It was originally on Railroad Ave, if I'm correct, near where the Lexus dealership is.
Okay.
So somewhere it didn't move far.
No, it didn't move far. That land was granted to the club through someone's will, and then the club built that particular place.
They're in the midst of some serious renovations right now. Massive renovation.
Every square inch of that club will be different next year, except for the pool.
Which is incredible.
They have torn down all the walls. They've actually knocked down an exterior wall to build a new addition to the building, but they took down all the interior walls to create different spaces, multi-purpose spaces, art spaces, more gathering spaces for the kids. They're going to upgrade all of the technology that's inside. So, all the kids have these devices they're taking. So how do we help them use them responsibly? Although a lot of times we took them away, because we also, part of the club was be a kid.
Yeah.
Right.
That's sort of the mantra of the club. Like, be a kid, go out and play. Don't be stuck here. But at the same time, kids are doing homework that required the devices. And so it was always this sort of, how do we sort of create that balance? But most of the kids came in. You pick up a kid. I think one of the best feelings, although parents loved it and hated it, was when a parent came to pick up a kid. Like, I'm not going. I don't want to go yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's a great thing if they want to stay.
Oh, it was you had a lot of kids that way. And, we also provided them with a snack.
Yeah.
And, just to remind people, remember we talked with, we talked about every club sort of being united. There's a program every club has called Youth of the Year. And the Youth of the Year is a program where kids can sort of volunteer to be part of this, where you can be nominated, and they look at your tenure there, what you've done, the kind of person you are. They get interviewed, all this stuff, and then you crown the Youth of the Year, which is the highest honor that any one child can have at any club. And so the Youth of the Year is a nationwide phenomenon. But to give you guys, we had one young lady, and she reminded us of the power of the club. She goes, a lot of days, and people didn't know that the snack she got at the club was the last meal she ate.
And this is local. This is I mean, that's talk about misconceptions that Lindsay and I have been talking about.
We talk about the misconceptions that people have of Greenwich. From the outside in and from the inside out, people think that everyone has such extreme wealth here. And, we're a town of 62,000 plus people. Yeah. There are bound to be people that don't have that. There is a working class. How else would the town function? Yeah.
But even harder than the working class. I mean, they're if that's their only meal that they're getting for the day, there's their only food, and that's local. That's something that needs to be addressed and helped with. And it's awesome that the Boys and Girls Club have resources to be able to do that.
I'll tell you, if you guys ever want to learn more about that, really connect with the United Way. Okay. They have done so much research. They do I don't know if it's every 5 years, they do a needs assessment here in town. They hired this group out of Fairfield U that does all of these kind of, they interview people, they take data, and they look at sort of, what is Greenwich? And I, David Rabin's going to kill me because I know I'm going to misquote it, but, they have this term, categorized as ALICE, ALICE, asset limited, income constrained, but employed. Huh. So these are pretty much the working poor. These are people who actually have jobs, but they're living paycheck to paycheck just to make a living. And I think last time, if you sort of calibrated for being in Greenwich, so they sort of do an area, but that area is, Fairfield County. So that's from Bridgeport to Greenwich. If you do that, and David, I think he once told me that the number now, if you're a family of 4, in order to live above the Alice level, you need to be making like $115,000.
Yeah.
Right? I'm from Dallas. If you're making $115,000 as a family of 4, you're living very comfortably. And we have people here who are living paycheck to paycheck. And again, they have, and I think one of the strengths of Greenwich, though, is that more and more organizations are recognizing that, more and more people are recognizing that. So I love the fact that we at least have ways for those folks to maintain a good standard of living here.
And they're above. I mean, we actually talked to somebody yesterday about, education and scholarships and grants that, for people that are making those, 100, just over 100, whatever, thousand, that they're above a lot of the grants and scholarship numbers, but it's still really hard to survive and send your kid to a good college or send your kid to, I mean, that's like the hardest spot, isn't it? I mean,
that is the difficult part. I think that one of the things that those opportunities, though, they still exist, but it's hard to know the game, particularly when you talk about scholarships, right? But they make just enough not to be getting the kind of help that they need, if that makes sense.
No, totally. I mean, we talked about this yesterday with someone else.
And so that's one of the difficult parts. But again, that's where you have places like the Boys and Girls Club, you have the United Way, you have the Department of Human Services, you have Neighbor to Neighbor, you have, I think it's now called Greenwich Communities, the Housing Authority. But then you start having more community partners, the YMCA, the YWCA, that are all sort of, what can we do to make Greenwich a place for everyone here to live comfortably? So whether it's discounts on memberships, whether it's after school help, whether it's transportation, the public school system itself creating all these opportunities for kids after school. And I'm sure I'm missing folks, but what I like about that is that everyone recognizes Greenwich is more than what the stereotype says. And so instead of living in the stereotypical Greenwich world, let's continue to examine what Greenwich really is and how can we make sure that every resident of Greenwich has access to those things they need to live a very good, successful, relatively, I can't say stress-free, but reduced stress.
Stress reduced.
Right? So I think that's one of the things that I like.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Okay, so you did some good time at the Boys and Girls Club.
I loved it. It's funny. Sunday I'm having lunch with a kid who's a junior in the club, so I still stay in touch.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
I'm sure.
A lot of people. I go out with some of my former employees. We'll have coffee or whatnot. Christina Vittoria and I, who's the current CEO, periodically we touch. So they haven't kicked me out fully yet.
I hope they never do. But tell us a little bit about the events, the big fundraiser every year, because it really truly is the talk of the town. It's one of those events that the event organizers every year, I've had friends that have been on that board. They go all out. There's so much talent. They really make it a special event and fundraiser for the Boys and Girls Club. But give us some highlights.
So we have two. The biggest one is sort of the benefit.
Yeah.
Right.
Gala winner.
That thing is so much fun. It all starts with getting co-chairs or, sometimes 2, 3, or even 4 people.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work for them. Yeah. But here's the deal. They volunteer to do it.
Right.
And then they choose a theme. And that's sort of the fun part, right? You're trying to think, all right, what's happened before? What did the YM do? What did the United Way do? So you're always trying to find that theme to get people. And, we did like Moroccan nights when I was there. We did, the surf theme once. We did a homecoming theme once, which was by far my
remember
favorite.
that.
They literally they created a scoreboard in the middle of our hockey rink.
There's so many names I'm biting my tongue on right now.
Well,
yeah, we've got a lot of friends really involved.
Didn't they do the entry and solo cup stuck into the to write something? They had.
I was gonna say maybe.
Wait, what was
They
this?
were empty. They were empty.
Wait, what was this?
They went with that whole what's a
college
home
theme.
So literally they did solo cups.
Beer pong.
They had
No.
They just made a message, but it's like everyone knows what the solo cup
Yeah,
means.
yeah.
And so it was a whole message. I think it was welcome or BGCG or something, all in red solo cups.
They drew it in a fence, like they had put up a fence.
I think I remember seeing that.
You've seen.
It wasn't at that one, but yeah.
I mean, it's fun. Like they encourage everyone to wear your favorite college jersey. So what I also like about it is that they're not always. Some may be getting dressed up. So when people come in black tie, but that one literally, we were in jeans and your favorite college shirt.
And varsity jackets.
Right.
It was so
All that
fun.
kind of thing.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Yes.
So it's something like
Ohio or Wisconsin? Which you were Cowboys.
this is before my
okay,
school
fair
at the
enough.
time. And then on top of that, we had one that was like a rock and roll theme. So I remember going in a tuxedo and a Run DMC shirt. Some people came as punk rockers. You know what I mean? So what I like about it is the theme can be anything that they have. And then that night is sort of, it's early in the year. So everyone's been gone for the summer, the vacations and all of that. One of the reasons I think the party works is that's one of the first big gatherings in Greenwich of the year. So it's usually the second weekend, the second Friday in September, right? And then people come in and they come out and it's just a lot of fun. You're seeing your friends.
Yeah, they haven't seen each other for months, and it's a nice way to reconnect without having to reconnect at school drop-off or, at the grocery store.
And then every time that they have the event, there's always a mission moment. But you also, yes, you're having fun, you're doing that, but then you remind people, listen, let me explain why you're here. And I think that's sort of one of the things where why it's so successful, because it's sort of a twofold event, right? It's a great time to reconnect, and people really do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because I used to stand out and greet people, and you're like shaking someone's hand, but they see someone they haven't seen in 2 months, and like, okay, see,
Oh, there's a whole tour scene. I mean, because you had a big event, and Kids in Crisis, I feel like those are the two, and the White W. But yeah, it's a whole social thing.
Oh, Greenwich Hospital, all those different things. And so, but that event just raises so much capital for the club, and it's early in the year. It allows the club to do a lot of the things that they need to do in order to support the kids.
And it also raises awareness among the people who participate, and then in all of the publicity that comes after it. What is the Boys and Girls Club facilitating for the youth in our town? How can I volunteer? I think that's a big question. We've had a lot of people in the seat that you're in talking about, how can I volunteer if I can't make it to the fundraiser, if I can't donate, or you can donate online always, but how can I volunteer my time?
Time, energy, and heart and soul.
Right.
Or something that matters quite a bit.
Right. So if someone like me wanted to, I've done volunteering at Boys and Girls Club in the past. It's been many years, so I should get back there. But how would I go about helping out there. And I know you don't work there anymore, but we should be all talking about supporting.
You can always go online and figure out, there's always paperwork and background checks and all of that, because obviously keeping the kids safe.
Yeah.
But then it's really, a lot of it, there are two ways. There are the things the club currently does, the homework hall, the art room, the gym, those things that happen on a daily basis. I think sometimes the magic happens when all of a sudden you have a specialty, you have an interest. And a lot of people will go, can I volunteer a program that I will teach? And it could be 4 weeks, 5 weeks. Some people would do it for, our seasons would be like 12 or 13 weeks. And a lot of people would come in sometimes, and it's a program that you have created because you have a specialty.
Yeah.
Right. I want to teach podcasting. Can I, get a couple of kids to do this? We've had, a group of boys from Brunswick and some girls from GA different times do robotics.
Yeah.
Right. It's something that kids they're all on a robotics team. So they offer this opportunity to teach robotics to the kids. Could we do that at the club? Of course we could, but these are kids who that's their thing. That's their passion. And so those are the programs that are really cool.
Yeah.
Because now it's not just what the club normally does. It's also now someone from the community coming in. Can I share my passion with you? So when I first got there were a group of women who liked to teach knitting. There were some people who taught guitar there, and so those are those programs that, it's hard when you can't run them all every year, but even when you can, and is that the thing that's going to inspire a kid? Is that the thing that's going to light a fire under someone to explore later?
Well, we talk about resources of Greenwich, and everyone assumes that's just money. But we also have a lot of people that have started these companies that have, that are masters of robotics and have built up these that are taking time to help kids get excited about it.
And I will say this, and so I will not be responsible for messing up this, but I will just tell you. The other thing the club does that blows my mind as an educator, and we talked about access to college, many people don't know that the club actually gives out scholarships.
Really?
Every year.
Did not know that.
Every year. So when I was there, to give you some idea how much it's grown, my last year, which was 2020, we gave out scholarships. It was probably like roughly $190,000. Last year, I think they gave out somewhere near $350,000.
You're kidding. That's fantastic.
College
scholarships, and the deal is it's a relatively simple process. It's you got to fill out some information. Where are you going? What are you studying? What's your GPA once you're there? And then you have people write letters of recommendation for you, and you also answer a prompt. So all we ask, and then you're interviewed by this committee, and the committee's made up of a lot of different people. Those at the club, some board members, but also a handful of community members who have supported this process.
That's fantastic.
And it's grown because again, someone's going to tell me I'm wrong, but I want to say it's SVT Capital.
Okay. We'll do the research and put it in the show notes.
I think they then pledged maybe 3 years ago, right after I left, that they pledged 4 $10,000 scholarships.
That's awesome.
And an internship for the kids who win that recognition. And so you could get anywhere. I think the smallest amount we gave was $1,500. And then when I was there before the SVT piece came aboard, we gave out, most kids going into their senior year were getting $5,000, and then certain kids who were the torch recipients got $10,000.
That's awesome.
And so every year the
game
club
changing, life changing.
And so that's what the club does. Again, this whole concept that our goal is to make sure that you have access to opportunity. That's what I used to talk. I used to always say when people go, what does the club do? My words, not the national, not the club. I was like, we are a broker of opportunities.
I love that.
That our goal is to provide these opportunities for kids to get the academic help they need, to have a safe space after school, to find interest. Like we can provide a lot of those opportunities. And then the whole idea is that maybe one of these opportunities turns into a passion later. That was the way.
And
that's the way Bobby Walker Jr. saw the club.
Yeah.
And that was how I always saw it. And that it didn't matter who you were, whether you lived in Armstrong Court or I remember my daughter when she was doing swim lessons there, she had a friend, Belhaven, who also came over to the club, and they would do the same swim lessons, and they were on a swim team together. And so that's the other thing that I've always enjoyed about the club, right? Because the price of getting in is so relatively affordable, right? If you have 3-4 kids, maybe paying that amount's hard, but most people in town could afford it. And if not, we had ways in which we could help people. And every once in a while you'd have a kid from Belhaven, a kid from Old Greenwich who's there. I mean, we were picking up kids from every school in Greenwich, except for Old Greenwich my last year, but we've had kids from Old Greenwich Elementary as well.
And there's transportation that you provide?
And this is where the partnership comes in. The town
Right.
does it.
Yeah.
So we have our own fleet the club has its own fleet of vehicles. But then I remember like 2017, the town was like, hey, would you guys like for us to provide a bus from particularly schools like New Lebanon?
Oh, the town did that?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they made the club a stop along their routes, and that saved us. I mean, we have so many kids. I keep saying the club has so many kids coming from, the major feeder schools are Hamilton Avenue, Julian Curtis, and New Lebanon.
Right.
Both schools that are there, right, pretty close by. We were dispatching a bus 3 times to go down to New Lab to get all these kids, right? We have those small little mini buses
Right.
that can hold 14 people. All of a sudden, they all are coming on one shot from the town. And then, Glenville, there was a bus from Glenville School, a bus from Western. And so it just became just this great partnership. I know we would pick up at, Dundee, we pick up at North Mianus, we pick up at certain places like that. But then the town really partnered with us to get kids there. So again, now transportation is no longer an issue. And that's what I'm saying. How do you continue to remove hurdles for everyone to have access to the things they really need? And so I love that partnership with the town.
We have somebody after you today coming in that's running for a political office. What else do you want from the town?
Listen, I just think that as long as the town continues to understand, and so now I will say this. This is the criticism is not the word. I'm going to say it's a perception. I do know, and again, a majority of the kids and families that went to the club lived on the west side of town. There has always been this perception that the west side of town has a very quiet voice, and that the east side of town has an outside voice in a lot of what goes on. I would love to see a little bit more parity between, what goes on in Greenwich. And again, your income should not give you any more access that a Greenwich resident.
1,000%. Yeah.
And so I think the more that we could continue to see that, I remember, a perfect example of that was when we did, I don't know if y'all both remember this, when they were looking at a change in the start of school. Like that whole debate.
The hour.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I was on the committee that did that. And so we would hold these town meetings. And again, part of this is work that people have to do. We did all these different meetings. And I'm like, man, no one from the west side of town is coming to these meetings, because we'd go and you'd ask people, what school. And it was always a lot of schools on the east side of town. So we actually held a session at the Boys and Girls Club. We actually offered babysitting. So we were like, okay, how do you remove barriers?
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, while you pick up your kid, leave them here for an extra 30 minutes. We'll have it. There were probably 15 to 20 people.
Wow.
With a topic that
We can work on this. I mean, we can. Yeah.
And so that's always been, again, in this case, I'm not speaking for the club or GA, just speaking as me. That's the one thing that I wish people could understand, that if you are a resident of Greenwich, you have a say in what happens in Greenwich. There's just this perception, truthfully or not, that if you live in a certain part of town, your voice matters less. So that's what I would love to see.
Yeah, that's crap.
That's what I would love to see. I mean, just go and look at, where people go to speak, where the cameras, right? Yeah. They tend to be in one part of town.
Well, and you can also join in on any of the town hall meetings. You can sit in on any of the Zooms. Everyone has a voice. It's just a matter of knowing how you can use that voice.
I completely agree, but sometimes people don't feel invited.
Makes sense.
They 100% are. Let me make it clear so no one says that.
No.
Bobby Walker's, but that's actually not what I'm saying. But there's also a different thing when someone shows up at your doorstep in a place where you are, and like, hey, we would love to have you join this, particularly for people who feel that they don't have a voice.
Yeah.
So there's an invitation, right, that's written in a newspaper somewhere. But imagine if people were to go to the churches on the west side of town, or go to a PTA meeting on the west side of town. It's like, hey, while you're here, we'd love to invite you to do this or that. That's just a different way of doing the same thing. So yes, the invitation's there because it's a standing thing, but it's just, I don't know.
They should be empowered. I mean, everybody in the town should be empowered.
There are some politicians who are really good about that. You'll see them in a lot of different places and spaces, and other people seem to be, well, I know where there's more influence if I spend my time here. It's like, presidential campaigns, right? They go to certain places, right? Because, it's going to get you more clout or political capital if you are in a certain place around certain people. And then you have those who are like, but you know what, though? I'm a person of the people, and so I'm going to go where the people are. Yeah. And people is a much bigger term.
Yes, it is. So I went to Glenville School and spent the majority of my youth on the west side of town, and I love it over there.
It's a great place.
It's the best.
And again, none of this is anything I'm saying is intentional. Just these were things that I heard.
It is what it is.
Maybe it's changed because I've been out there since 2020, but that was one of the things that I'd heard. And just seeing it so, just seeing it so in your face with that whole start of school time debate and just the people who were not in the room.
No, and everyone should feel empowered. Yeah. And, obviously on paper and voting, everyone has the voice, but no, they should feel empowered, and, it's all up for debate. I mean, to me, the only thing that's not up for debate is when we grew up, Glenville pizza was the best pizza. I mean, I don't find any,
Bro, I mean, you might as well just go ahead and have an arm wrestling competition about best pizza in town.
Well, not now. We're open to all pizza. But growing up, Glenville pizza definitely took the cake.
Someone asked me that once, and I just
half my
shut.
It's really hard.
I'm not gonna say a word.
It's hard.
I just will say that one of the.
I can feel your eyes, but everyone that we're thinking about is new relative to 20, 30 years ago.
All I'm saying,
talking about that.
There's a guy that lives across the street that Brick Street Pizza.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
I'm a big fan.
I did not say today. I'm talking about growing up, and
it's a mood. Sometimes I'm in the mood for Greg. Sometimes I'm in the mood for Glenville. Sometimes I'm in the mood to go to Ray Napoli and Old Greenwich. Like, it's a mood thing because we're so lucky that all the pizza. We could do a whole episode on pizza.
The great pizza and food that exists here.
And we're in Connecticut. We're not in New York. We're not in Long Island. We're not in the city. I mean, there's some hefty competition. We've also got Pepe's coming in around the corner.
Well, I literally just wrote debate, like host a debate, because we're not doing politics.
The great pizza debate.
But we should have a pizza debate. We should have
It would be hysterical. It's very personal. A lot of people, I'm a Sicilian girl at Glenville Pizza, but I'm everything else at Greg, and that's my neighborhood, so that's
all right. We can have a whole wrestling.
Also, they're all friends.
John out here.
Yeah, well, arm wrestle. That's great.
I'm saying.
I'm with you. No. But
weak.
Growing up, Glenville Pizza was
really.
I'm sorry. I lived every Sunday. It was either Glenville Pizza or Monero's, and that was a family tradition.
Well, it was also you were on. We look at the map of Greenwich that we have right here, but when you're on this side of town or in the middle of town, like we are, you gravitate to the places that are closest to you. So
I appreciate that.
I gravitate, and our neighbor is the owner of Greg, so we do gravitate there, and we're a little biased.
I'll happily debate with him on what pizza was better, Greg or Glenville 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah,
years ago, Greg was not very good.
That didn't exist, but they're totally different.
Yeah,
totally different ball game. Okay. Let's see. We've talked about the Boys and Girls Club, and thank you so much for sharing, because I just learned a lot, and I know that it's going to be a lot of learning for our community. So in 2020, you switched gears, and where did you go and why?
So 2020, I got a phone call from Molly King, who was the head of school at Greenwich Academy, and she started talking about creating a position that would probably be a synthesis of my, at that point, 25 years of work experience, working with kids, but also continuing to work in a community. And so it got me back to sort of where I started in 95 as a teacher. So I went to Greenwich Academy, and my official title is Assistant Head for Student and Community Life.
/ Becky's husband.
/ Becky's husband. Or maybe I should start with this. And so what that title means is I work with all the non-academic parts of school. So I work with the athletic director. I work with the director of diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I work with the director of community engagement, the director for the Center for Public Purpose. Again, all those are the non-academic pieces of school. I coach, I teach. I've taught American history, since 95. And this year, I'm excited teaching my first AP course. It's a new AP course, AP African American Studies.
Cool.
You ever want to look up something? Just look up the controversy surrounding that. So that'll be fun.
I can't fathom
such a controversial course, but we're going to teach history and we're going to teach fact. And if people don't like history and fact, that's not my problem.
No, but when you're teaching an AP course, it's done to AP, right? I mean, so there's
a whole curriculum.
There's a set curriculum, right, for testing and everything, as opposed to a non-AP or.
But this is a curriculum that there are a number of states that won't allow this course.
Yeah.
So I will not go into that, but there's this. I'm just saying I think it's a great course, but it's clearly a course that can invoke thoughts and feelings with some people.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to engage with this history. It's sort of one of the things so I was a history major in college.
Yeah.
With a concentration in African American studies, so it gets me back into something that I studied. So I'm really excited.
It's a full circle moment. This is so exciting.
And I coached track and field. So
yeah.
In college, I did football and track and field. So it's always fun.
Fantastic.
Getting out there, coaching the girls, shot put, discus, and the javelin.
Yeah.
So your high school and middle school, I mean, the sports don't really go, top of middle school, right?
Yeah, but there's a whole separate middle school track team. My coaching is only with the high school.
Oh, with high school. Okay.
But my job, though, I touch all divisions. So I actually help with a 4th grade leadership class, which is a lot of fun. Trying to do more work in the middle school. When my daughter was there, I didn't do much. Having one parent in your life is enough.
Yeah.
Having both parents, so we sort of didn't do anything. So Becky and I are trying to find ways for me to get more involved with middle school. And I've been thinking maybe I could work with their middle school leadership group just to be part of those meetings and whatnot. And then the community life part of my job is to retain some of those relationships I had through the Boys and Girls Club. So I'm the co-chair of the First Selectmen's Diversity Committee.
Okay.
Literally just last week, I was on the board of Greenwich Hospital, but it was my last year, but I stepped down early. I am on a board of a small nonprofit in Stamford called Kids Helping Kids. I've been a member of the advisory board at United Way. There was a point I was a member of the advisory board at the Junior League. I'm on the advisory board of the Boys and Girls Club.
Bar's pretty high.
I'm a member of a lot of people don't know about this, but it's a state commission called the Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday Commission.
Okay.
It's a governor appointed commission. I was invited to be on that. And literally its job is to make sure that the King holiday lives on, that the state always commemorates it, and because the celebration itself takes place at the Capitol, the whole idea, but again, it's a whole state. Do we have people from other places? So a guy from Stanford was asked to be there, and so was I, sort of representing this part of the state. But a lot of people come from the central, and then the northeast and northwest the northeast part and the southeast, but there wasn't a lot of Fairfield County representation. So Guy Fort, who's in Stanford, and I sort of represent Fairfield County.
I love that. So, and everything you're doing is aligned with who you are as a person, and that's what matters.
Hey, look, people ask me, what do you do? I'm like, look, I'm just a guy having fun. My whole goal for me has always been like, how can I serve kids? I mean, that's sort of the central focus. And I was a kid that I am where I am in my life because a lot of people stepped up and did certain things to me at very pivotal times in my life. And maybe this is my way of trying to give back or whatnot. So that has always been just a central theme for me is, helping kids. But then through that process, and particularly as I was at the club, I've chosen to stay here and raise my kids here. And so other questions like, how can I help my community, in my own way?
Right. Can you get a mud run at you?
Oh, I would
right in
love
that
to
back,
do
that back campus. And Seth can set up a whole,
Yeah, he can help set it up. He's good at building things. So I do just want to say that you have now 2 kids that are playing sports at Ohio State, which is a Big Ten school, and just so happens to be pretty highly ranked with the football side with Miles, and you have your oldest going there for her first post-grad year, play field hockey, and then you have one still at GA. So you're
field hockey and basketball.
Field hockey and
I mean, sports for us has just been. I mean, Becky and I always joke around. The only reason we stayed a couple in college for so long is we never saw each other because both of us were.
There's value in that.
I mean, there's big. But what I mean by that is so I did football and track and field, but that's 3 seasons because track is a dual season sport. And then Becky did basketball and tennis is a dual season sport. So literally for 4 years, we did 3 seasons of sports every year. And so, and all of mine, in my 4 years at school, I may have had, and I actually calculated, 85% of my Saturdays I had a competition for 4 years.
That's fantastic.
That's a lot.
You only had a few Saturdays off. It may even be closer to 90%.
Right.
So from literally the 3rd or 4th week in September And if you qualified all the way up until after graduation, actually,
Yeah.
I was competing.
That's wild.
And then my competition was every Saturday. And you'd maybe get a week off around Thanksgiving and then the first week or two of Christmas, so of the winter holiday. So that's 6 weeks, 6 Saturdays of the entire year that I didn't compete.
And now you're raising 3 kids who all have that schedule.
Luckily, they only play one season, but I would tell you, I mean, we talked about the Big Ten. Their practice.
I would love to pull your son aside and say, "Oh, your dad said you only play one season. See how much effort goes into
That
playing
one season
football in
year.
Ohio."
Tell you, one of the things that we try to do in high school is that we've always believed kids should play more than one sport.
Yeah.
And so in high school, they all did more than one sport.
I played everything. And then when I got to college, I focused on lacrosse.
Yeah.
But
it's just something we thought just makes you an all around better athlete, playing more than one sport. So my son did football and baseball. He did basketball one year.
Yeah.
And then my oldest she was interesting. She did field hockey and basketball for 2 years. And then after that, she did field hockey and track and field. And then my youngest is doing field hockey and basketball.
Okay.
So
I think
And she's currently looking at Wisconsin and Michigan just to mess with the family.
man, why are you trying to get me in trouble?
Well, I
Let me
think
bring it up
That's
to
my job. You should have seen us with Frank Carpentier.
But I think having the experiences of trying different things, as we all did as kids, we played everything, and it was very different back then. By way of, it wasn't as much of a business as it is now. Being a parent now, I see that, and I'm also a coach. I coach youth lacrosse, but having those experiences, you don't know what you're going to gravitate to until you try it. I didn't know. I started playing lacrosse my sophomore year in high school.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, I picked up a stick my sophomore year, and I tell all the kids that I coach, because I was an All-American in college, you can be whatever you want to be. Well, when you find the thing that lights you up, there's no stopping you. But until you try different things on for size, you don't know what really lights you up. And it could be at any time in your life. But especially with sports, especially with youth sports, I think it's so valuable personally to have those experiences instead of be like a one-trick pony. But that also, no disrespect to anyone who does just one thing and it works for them.
No disrespect at all.
Well, I mean, and I have a question for both of you, I guess, is that in today's environment, can you, I mean, I get it if you're an insane athlete, but can you pick up lacrosse and field hockey as a sophomore and then play in college D1? You know, it's, my concern
really
is that is it you know, the kids get too intimidated to start quote unquote late,
That's
which
very
is still
real.
high school.
That is a
Could not agree with
very
that.
real thing. And I've coached so many kids who have this fear in them. It's an inherent fear, like, because I haven't been playing, how will I get better? And I always just say you have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You're not going to start on the A team though. So don't set that expectation for yourself. Your friends might be on the A team, but if you want to get into the sport, you have to be willing to be a novice. And this goes for, this is like the coaching that I do now as a coach, but you have to, life coach and sport coach, you have to be willing to start somewhere. I'm not an expert as a coach. I just started really 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I completely switched my career. And it was scary. It was uncomfortable. But I'm so much better now. And I can't wait to just get better and better and better. So is it possible? Yes. They just have to work a lot harder than we did back then, because
Completely agree.
the competition
it
is
stinks how late
serious.
that date is, because
Yeah.
you know, for kids that are going into high school that are, you know, I just hate the idea that they're behind, that they, you know,
Yeah.
and
well,
I mean, I guess I'm saying is
school-
that some of them feel that they're behind for thirds. Like, I mean, that just seems really sad.
But you know, a good coach who can develop the program can at least move you from thirds to
Right.
JV.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you don't have to be relegated to being on thirds your whole life. But part of it is there's a fear, right? Because you see all these people. Well, she's been playing lacrosse since second grade, or, you know, they've been picking up a field hockey stick since, you know, fourth grade. And you have a girl who's new to GA and wants to pick it up. I love the fact that at least at most schools open up these, you know, again, missed the opportunity here,
Yeah.
but they give them opportunity at least to try. But it is really hard because, you know, my girls, you know, they've been playing field hockey for a while. So if you're picking
And
up
my
freshman
girls
year-
have watched others and been intimidated at young ages. I mean, that's what really
it
freaks
is
me
getting
out.
younger and younger, but in the same breath, again, if you try something and you just so happen to have this inherent ability, then it can happen overnight. But I mean, you're going to have to be willing to do the work and commit.
I totally get that. I just
Yeah.
think that it's a lot of pressure on a kid going into freshman year that wants to try something that watches everybody that's been doing it since they're 2.
It is.
Like, that's what I just.
It can be intimidating.
Yeah.
But the opportunities are there.
Good.
Yeah, Greenwich High School, where I played, has so many opportunities for trying different sports. But yeah, if you haven't been doing a lot of it these days since you were in 5th grade, I would say it really starts to shift in middle school now, whereby it used to start to shift in high school.
Yeah.
So that I would say is the difference,
But
in my opinion.
School level opportunity at middle school, I don't think is enough. There is. I kind of wish there was more opportunity within the school in middle school.
I agree with that personally.
Yeah, and again, I know people always tell me I'm Mr. Downer, Debbie Downer. So who's the guy? Don Downer.
Don Downer.
Is that the guy version?
I highly doubt anyone sees you as a downer ever.
No, let's make change. I mean, I love that there are a ton of programs outside of school with middle school, but the problem, that I faced, frankly, is that when you have dual income and you're working until 5 or 6, when is my kid going to play lacrosse on a Wednesday?
Right. I can't afford it.
Right.
Well, yeah. So it's both. It's all ends of the spectrum, and so for us, it's my daughter's in school until 5 or whatever. When can she play and pick up a field hockey? It's.
I mean, that was one of my biggest issues, and we talked about this a lot at the club, and I've even spoken to USA Field Hockey about it. Right?
Oh, really?
For me, there's certain sports that in this area, and so all the things we're going to say good about Fairfield County, so I'm going to call this out. Like, lacrosse is super diverse almost everywhere.
Okay.
Not here.
Yeah.
Not at all. You have Bridgeport Youth Lacrosse that is dedicated to making sure that all kids of all socioeconomic levels are going to get a lacrosse stick in their hands. After Bridgeport, I can't think of another program that's committed to that.
Really? Okay.
Not in Stanford, Darien, New Canaan, Greenwich. No one's dedicated to saying we want to make sure that all kids, irregardless of socioeconomic level, can get access to a lacrosse stick. It just doesn't exist. Yeah. Harlem lacrosse, Bronx lacrosse. So there are places where it happens. I don't see it in Fairfield County. And my daughter plays on probably the largest field hockey team in this area.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist there either.
Really?
And so one of the things we talk about, getting kids access to these things to see if they love it, we have the ability to do it here because lacrosse is so huge. Yeah. Why aren't there more kids doing it? Now, luckily, by the time they get in middle school is where a lot of kids have access through their schools. So this is kudos to the schools providing this opportunity. But to your point, their kids, they watch kids leave the club and I'm going to my lacrosse practice.
Right.
And other kids are like, well, I want to go.
Yeah.
But there actually does exist the opportunity to remove some of those financial hurdles, but no one knows that they exist.
Well, we can talk about this offline because this really pulls on my heartstrings as a player and coach who I see the kids and the difference it makes.
Just all I'm saying
their genuine well-being. Yeah.
Go to a practice and go to a game. Yeah. And look, particularly at the club level. And so what ends up happening, and so this is one of the things that people worry about as you get older, is that at the club level, the kids have money are playing club sports, and now colleges are recruiting more club athletes. So do the math. More club kids are going to college on scholarships.
And again, it's become such a business that if you don't start club in 6th or 7th grade and you play, and by the way, club is exorbitantly expensive, and I am not necessarily it's I didn't know until we started last year, which we did, but then you play club through high school and there's one team when you get to high school. So while there are multiple teams that you can get onto, the A, the B, whatever, in middle school, once you get to the high school level, there's one team. So if you don't make it on that one club team, you're done with the club scene.
So how do you pick it up at high school?
Well, you can continue to play at your high school, but you're going to play at a different level because you're not also doing club. I mean, these kids are playing so much of this sport because they're doing club through the year, and then they're doing their season at their school just in the spring. It's a spring sport, technically.
I've always wanted to see, I remember I was at the club, and it's sort of my fault. I tried my hardest because, to your point, I'm watching what field hockey can do in this country for a girl. Right?
Yeah.
Everywhere else it's boys, it's men and women, but in the U.S. it's only women.
I know people watching the Olympics like, are those men playing field hockey? Yeah, that's probably how it started.
I'm watching what it would do, like for my daughter's confidence, for new friends, but also later on, right? There's a reason my daughter.
I have a kid in volleyball, and I think it's the best thing ever.
So I'm just looking at this, and then I remember there was a girl at the club. I know her family situation. She's probably the best athlete I've seen. She was in 6th grade. She would run circles around anybody on my daughter's field hockey program, without a doubt. She would have been the best athlete out there, but she can't afford it.
Yeah.
She simply could not afford the price tag of being on that team. And by the way, it's not that she would have liked it. I'm not saying it, but I'm thinking of this kid. And so I talked to the head coach, like, man, how do we get kids involved? And whether they choose to go on to high school or college, that's not the point. The idea was, here's this great sport. And if all of us are talking, we have kids, sports teach you, forget the college piece, just the life lessons you can learn from being on
and the friendships and
right? I'd like to see more.
I rode in high school and college, and by the way, D3 rowing is the worst thing ever. So, because you're doing the same work as D1, but you're not getting a tenth of the excitement.
Yeah.
So that's that's a whole separate thing. Like I said, I'm Don Downer with this. I just would love to see sports have played such a huge role in my family's life. I would love to see more kids, or we revert back where everybody just plays.
Yeah.
Like the growth of the sports industry, maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's not necessarily anything else, because there used to be a time kids just played, but now you talked about your daughter's schedule. I remember mother, when I was in Maryland, a mother asked me, she came to my office, closed the door. I got a serious question for you. I'm like, uh-oh. She goes, my daughter's in 5th grade. She wants to join a lacrosse team. I don't know what to do. So I'm confused by the question. She goes, I have loved the fact that my daughter comes home, she gets on her bike, she rides around, she rides with other people. But what happened was her bike gang went from 5 girls to 4 to 3. And then the other was like, well, everyone's going to play lacrosse, so should I do it? She goes, I don't have an issue with my daughter playing lacrosse. She goes, I hope she does, but I also want her to ride her bike and
not
go
lose
to a
that
playground.
innocence. Yeah.
And so that's the other piece. So I never know which side of this coin that I'm arguing. Is it that the sports industry has gotten so big, or that we've sort of taken away the childhood that most people know? Because now kids have goals and agendas. I'm 6 years old, and I have to be on the youth Rangers by the time I'm in 9th. I'm in 3rd grade because
or I won't go to Duke.
Or expand it so those that didn't grow up doing all of it, that do have time in high school, can feel a part of that third team, like to make it. I don't know. I mean, I just hate.
We have examples all across the country. Mm-hmm. What happens when you open opportunities for people
you
don't normally have? And the best example I can give everyone is what happened with tennis in Compton with the Williams sisters.
Yeah.
Okay.
You move a country club sport into an area that people who don't go to country clubs can go, and you have a family that discovered this love of a sport that other people love.
Yeah. And an inherent talent that they started to hone and shape, and now those girls are women, the best in the world.
Right.
Well, and I would assume that area, there are hopefully hundreds of other kids that got into tennis, that got them excited about other stuff, got them moving, so it's not just the Williams sisters.
And the beauty is, it is happening. So it's not just, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm saying that I think that in Fairfield County, we could make more of a
there's an opportunity
to make it happen. That's all.
So we'll hit the politicians over the head on sports. And what else did we want to do? There's some
barbecue. We need a good barbecue place. Mason Street barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
But
is there any barbecue?
I'm crossing my fingers that barbecue takes over down the street here.
Oh, I know a little bit about that. But
look, man, I'm from Texas, bro.
I want great barbecue, live music, outdoor seating.
That would be great.
That's what I envision for this town.
How cool would it be if there was a beer garden?
Right. Well, like Hoodoo Brown, if you combine Hoodoo Brown's barbecue with a great, which is up in Ridgefield, thank you, with a great brewery, and just put the two together. Marry those two, put them in a great location here in Greenwich.
We've got one right down the street. We have one
with an outdoor space.
Which we have.
A local band.
Right down the street.
Things like that.
Which we have many local bands that play in all the bars and restaurants. We could have them play outside. We could get noise ordinance. It's not that residential of an area right there on the post road. Just saying. That would be ideal.
So if you want to win an election in Greenwich, put that on Todd's point.
I'm just saying, every time I've been to Hoodoo, they have a line out the door. Most of the food is sold out by 8 o'clock at night.
It's a great place.
It's really, outside of Texas, it's really been dubbed one of the best.
Is it that good?
Yes.
I think it is.
To somebody that knows that?
Someone from Texas saying they
that's a big.
And there's some other places. I haven't tried many because there just aren't that many great barbecue places here. But I met the guy. So Hoodoo actually catered an event at the Boys and Girls Club for us for 2 years.
Okay.
So I met the pitmaster, right? This guy is the coolest guy in the world, you know, and he just spends his life perfecting his craft.
Where is Hoodoo?
It's up in Ridgefield.
Okay.
It's really it's random, and then you hit it, and it's like, oh wow, I've really stumbled on a little bit of a diamond in the rough here. It's an amazing spot.
So we need Hoodoo too.
I've gone and not been able to get in, and then
really?
I've gone to an Italian place down the street with the kids. Yeah, I mean it's that good.
Okay.
But this whole idea of having, like, that's the one thing I would love to see Greenwich have. I'm with you, like a place where it's not too fancy.
Yeah.
Because barbecue people, you know, they lick their fingers.
We used to have Dinosaur in Stamford, and then that closed, and
Q.
It was Q.
Yep, I've been to Q.
Which closed. It's like, you know, it's a successful business model. Barbecues.
So we need barbecue, and
Classic.
I need grocery in Coscob. I mean, you guys aren't Coscobbers, but I need a grocery.
Well, we are getting to Chico's in Glenville. I know that's not Coscob, but that's an exciting new addition to town.
Okay.
To Chico's, which there's one in Armonk, and I would drive to Armonk just to shop to Chico's because it's a great grocery store. But yes, agreed. There does.
Coscob needs.
But
grocery.
Coscob it's more local, like back in the day, where you'd go to the butcher and then you'd go to, like we talked about yesterday with the guy whose episode is coming out tomorrow. But you go to all of the fish market, and that's how Coscob is. There's a bread store.
You put a Trader Joe's in Coscob, and please.
Game changer.
Game changer for me.
Game changer.
I mean, yeah.
So all of us about to go in the restaurant business?
Love Trader Joe's. No. I mean, the restaurant business, the lacrosse business. Well, Bobby.
You should go into podcasting. It's got big money, I swear.
Hey, thank you guys. I know we talked about a lot.
Listen, it's been awesome. I love these conversations.
Thank you.
And it's going to be great for everyone to learn more about you and what you're up to, and also the work that you did with the Boys and Girls Club. I hope that everyone looks up the Boys and Girls Club. If you're not already involved in some way, get involved. And thanks for doing what you do and being who you are. And Mrs. Becky Walker.
Yes.
Proud husband.
That's the way it goes.
On Wisconsin?
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Ohio State.
Go Ohio State. Yeah.
Trust me, I wear my Ohio State here, and I get booed because everyone's a Michigan fan in Greenwich.
Really?
No, Wisco, baby. On Wisconsin.
I'm not privy to all of this. This is good stuff. Well, I don't have kids in college yet, and I did not go to a Big Ten. I need to go to a game, though. This has been established. I need to go to a Big Ten football game.
Student section.
Get lists.
Student section.
It is an experience.
Yeah.
Yes, it definitely is.
Yeah.
But seriously though, thank y'all. And if I said anything that I said wrong,
oh, we'll cut it out.
I don't think you did.
That's fine.
We're
we might have.
Yeah. We're
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone. See you soon.